Happy New Year, everyone, and Felice Anno Nuovo, Buon Anni. 2025 and New Year, and I wanted to try some new things. This time I'm going to try to make the water, hi Becky, I'm going to try to make the water do a lot more work. And take advantage of what watercolor does. And so what that's going to involve is actually moving the board and pouring some paint. Not pouring, but dripping and moving the paint around and letting it settle the way it wants to. The other thing is, because of that, I'm working a lot flatter today than I would. Normally I'm working at about a 45-degree angle on the board. Today it's going to be more like so. So we're using this view of the arcade in St. Mark's Square. It goes around three sides of it. St. Mark's in the background. What is that? Cafe Florian over here on the right, and there's a little like museums and stuff shows over there. Hi Joey, hi Kathy. So what we're going to do is, you'll see, it's going to be a whole lot different. So you notice I've sort of pre-drawn it. I thought I wouldn't bore you too much with that. I mean, it's a series of three half arcs, well, a quarter arc, two half arcs, and a full arc. There are arcs within the arcs. I guess you can't really see them probably from the photo. I can make out a little better. But then the figures, and it's just a nice silhouette. So it's just all these repeating lovely arcs and in the architecture there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a big brush, and I'm going to paint the background first before, just standard dark over light, before I put in all of the arcade there. So I'm going to get a little bit of, just some leftover blue here, maybe some cobalt or cerulean or something. And about anything will do, actually, as long as it's not like purplish blue, because we're going to go greener blue up here, more purplish blue down there. So it doesn't matter if I hit in here, because that's going to be darker, right? Where it will matter, let's make that a little stronger there. Where it will matter is I don't want to get into the yellowish, whitish tones there. So I'm going to mop or evacuate some of that bead there. And then I'm going to go to my Naples yellow here and just put it right next to it and get a soft edge. Again, I can go right through the figures, right through the arcade. Let's make that a little more ochreish. Yellow ochreish over here on the Cafe Florian. And very pale over here. Sun is, I believe, hitting in that area. Now, I'm going to put a wee bit of orange in that. Hi, Jan. And I'm going to pull that down through here. These are, you might think of as sort of the underneath colors. And that's actually a very important thing to get in watercolor, is that you have to, when you're deciding how you're going to do this, So now I'm making up a bit. Hi, Chris. Welcome. A more purplish blue. I'm going to flood that into what was wet here and let it do that sort of soft thing it's doing there. So one of the reasons I wanted to pre-draw this was so that I could kind of know where my shadows and my figures are going to go. Or the shadows cast by the figures on that. A little bit of that there, a little bit of that there. And this we will want to dry completely. Absolutely bone dry. So now I will mute the mic. Okay, that should be dry enough. I want to make sure that it's absolutely bone dry, because when I start putting paint on here and moving it around and pouring it, hi Carol, it's going to be very important that it doesn't go past where I paint it. The surface tension of the paper and the water will hold it in place if I'm careful and not too crazy. So what I'm going to need to do is mix up a couple of really good solid puddles, and I've squeezed out fresh paint so that it loosens up nicely. Ultramarine blue. Look at that. See how thick that is? Put a little bit of water in it. Oh, Happy New Year, Karen. Thank you. It's my sister. So a little bit of burnt sienna in that. I don't want to mix it too well. We're going to do the mixing on the paper. As you'll see, I'm going to have my yellow ochre loosened up. Ready to go. I'm going to have that transparent red iron oxide. I called it burnt sienna, but it's actually transparent red iron oxide. Let's get that in there. More of that. I've got a lot of surface area here to cover, so I may actually pre-wet some of the areas. I have to start being careful now, so I'm going to put lots of this in there. Having a care to the shape. Oh goodness, look at this. I'm going to need lots more. this creamy paint into a wet surface. I could put more of the brown at the top, the transparent red iron oxide, and perhaps a little more blue towards the bottom. Now, the surface is getting wet here, or it should be staying wet. And now before it gets away from me, I got to start putting more paint in here. So I'm touching this on now. Gentle touch, gentle touch. Water on the surface. I need to keep water on the surface. Very important that I keep this whole shoot and match wet. Now, lots of blue, a little bit of cad red, purplishness. Gonna squeeze it out. Oh, rogue, go. That's where a person's gonna go now. So, because there's water on the surface, and you got to keep it wet, and this could be a disaster, I don't know. I don't usually paint this way. So just to keep things going, I am going to, we'll turn that into a person. There's going to be some people there. I'm going to moisten it at the top. And I'm going to kind of pour this around. And you'll see that it pretty much stays where I made the marks. This is turn it upside down. It's going to look like, I love holy mess stages. It's going to look like a holy mess. Let's drizzle. Don't worry if I get into there because there's, oh, there, jog going. There goes Cafe Florian. Let's keep it moving. More water, more paint. This is very dense, but still somewhat runny paint. So I'm going to turn it the other way. Let it drizzle this way. Wherever I put the water, that's where it can go. Gentle touch, gentle touch. I'm trying to do move the paint. There's going to be a lot of people in person action down here. So let's just block that whole area in. So the surface is wet, surface is wet. I'm going to get a little bit of yellow ochre in the top, I think. I'm going to pull some water down along the side of this so that I get a soft edge like that shadow. Hi, Susie. Holy mess stage. It was a kind of a yellowish stone. So I put some yellow ochre in there. Now I'm going to put in some ultramarine. Tilt it. Gentle, gentle, gentle. I want to keep all the liquid on the surface. Maybe I'll even do a faraway spritz here with the let's get some of that yellow ochre down to the top. Maybe mop a bit of it off so I can put in a new color. Wiping the tape. Now, different brush, gonna get the Oriental. Let's get some more colors. Let's get some more reddish violet, perhaps. Try and execute some of the architectural details, like these cornice pieces. Start doing some of our figures. Turn that blotch into a person. There's something back there that was, I don't know what it was, in my general approach is if I can't tell what it is, don't try to either make it exactly like what it looks like or turn it into something different. Now, a little bit more of an angle so I get some of this pouring going on through here. Get that down there. Oh yeah, look at this. Let's get some ultramarine. Now I'm stabbing into almost tube strength paint here. And putting it into that wet surface. If you've heard me talk about the whipped cream and the cocoa, that's the stage I'm in now. If you haven't heard me talk about that, I will talk about it in just a bit. Now, I need to try and make my, hi Jen, Happy New Year to you. Try to make my reflections. I'm going to paint water below where the people's reflections are and let the paint come down into that. Get some, it's kind of a shiny blue it looks like. I'm feeding a mix of colors into that. It's good. I had a figure over here too, didn't I? Got a garbage can over here. I need soft reflections. I'm putting water to the side and letting it flow in. I'm feeding it into this area. I need to feed it into this area. So it's creamy thick paint, and it's the equivalent of putting whipped cream on your hot cocoa as opposed to putting milk into it. Because milk is runny, so you put runny into runny. I know most of you have heard this before, it's probably boring. But if you put runny into runny, it disperses quite a bit. If you put something thicker and creamier on, it melts at the edges and then basically stays put. Now that I need to soften, so at the risk of... Now what's happening, I'm hoping, Catherine, hello. I'm going to turn it back upside down this way now. Whoa, yeah, be careful. So, be aware of where your liquid is at. I'm drying the stuff that was on the tape. So maybe I'll just go flat and not at such an extreme angle. Okay, it is almost flat now. I'm going to put some reddishness into this vicinity. The surface is still very damp. You can see a sheen, there's water on the surface. Some straight up ultramarine blue here. And tilt it and let that run into the wet surface below. Now some of these figures who are a little further forward, I'm going to darken and leave some of the ones who are further away a little lighter. Peeking out around the corner. Gonna wet that right there just to let a little bit of that flow. Now, what can we do? What can we continue to do? Let's get some thinner. Hello, Diane. Some people further back on the square. There's a shadow being cast. On the buildings from over there. I could start, let's see. Important thing to remember when you're painting figures, the line of the heads is going to be relatively level. There is a bit of a drop off from this arcade to the square, but still, for the most part, the heads will be at your eye level. So I'm going to try and suggest now some of the detail in St. Mark's. Should probably do that with like yellow ochre because it's a lot of gold and mosaic and oh, beautiful stuff. It's just crazy. That looks too dark to me, so I'm going to blot the brush and lift some of it and pull it. I'm going to be very suggestive there. Here are the lines of the windows by the Cafe Florian. They get smaller and closer together as they get further away. Okay, I'm starting to see. All right, now stiff ultramarine blue, cad red. Hello, Lisa. I'm going to put in here. Now the water is starting to go, the glisten is starting to go off of the paper. So I'm going to get some deep grungy purple and begin suggesting the secondary set of arches. There's arches within arches, and the camera will tend to lose a lot of them. And they're just sort of almost happening on their own. So if I get lucky, like I say, I don't do this all the time. It's something I want to do more of. So very, very stiff. I mean, this is almost like tube strength paint. Right at the edge of that. It's melting into the background because it is a bit wet, but the surface is still damp, so it's going to disappear into there. Now, we've also got I think I want to suggest that there's a bit of a light area there. So I rinse that brush, squeeze the water out. Let's see if we get my hand. And then I'm going to see if I can pull some of that paint out there. A little bit here. I need a head there, don't I? Gonna give this guy a dark shirt. Just a little bit of detail, not a lot. Let's see, rinse, squeeze. Let's see if we can lift a little bit of light on the top of these cornice pieces. We're barely suggesting them. So what I'm starting to get, I hope, is let's darken the face here. Let's get some lavender, tube strength. Let's put a shirt front on this guy or person. Some crisscross, there's a kind of a diagonal tile in here. Let's lift out maybe, no, let's put some dark in there. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. The consistency of the paint I'm using today is pretty dark. I mean, dark, well, it's pretty dense. So this is rich, stiff paint being painted into a damp surface so that it melts at the edges. I don't get too fancy in there. Let's do another, well, another way we can do the up here, the glisten has gone off. That means this dense paint I can scrape out with my fingernail, like so. Yeah. It's good to, you can do that with a palette knife too, but that's just one more thing to lose track of when you're out painting. And so your fingernail is always with you. And it's also good for getting the basket out of your mocha pot. Things like that. So our best tools are our hands. And okay, now I am going to dry this. I'm going to mop up excess paint. Probably shouldn't have done that. Let's see what happens when I dry this. Always fun to try something new. Going to mute the mic. Okay, so hopefully that's, well, it's always better when you're doing this to let the thing dry on its own. The idea with this letting the paint drizzle and move around like that is so that the Brownian motion keeps the pigment particles separate as they settle and dry, so you don't get a yucky solid color. And it may look yucky and solid here. Again, this is the first time I've really tried to do this, but I've always wanted to try something like this. And we're going to add some details. To kind of make it fancier. Nothing elaborate. We're just going to put a bit more. Let's get a small brush, like a number 12 or something like that. And there are some lamp things up here. There are some, let's get St. Mark's going here. Yellow ochre, a little bit of red. Something probably, okay, we're making burnt sienna. Hi, Patty. In there, in there. I'm going to tease that down with a damp brush. There are some interesting little details in the cupolas of the cathedral there. The facade has a kind of interesting Moorish sort of influence. Red tile roof over here. Another one over there. Just little triangles. I'm going to put some reddishness in that cornice. I want to get some red and make the faces a little warmer here, so they look like people. There's a reddish violet glass on this thing. I doubtless from all those fancy glass places in Murano. Amazing to watch them make that stuff. So, let's put a bit of and some cast shadows onto the square. If it's a little too dark, blot it out. Yeah, I always want to try some, or I should be wanting to try new things. Not do the same old year in and year out. Another thing I want to try, and I will definitely have to try it before I do it in front of you guys and embarrass myself, but I want to do some nocturnes on black paper. Black watercolor paper, believe it or not. Just like David Becker does. Hi, Jackie. So, I think this is where I want to look at it and decide, maybe I see a little bit of, I could be bluer over here. Maybe not that blue. Okay. Just some very, very subtle. Actually, what I need to do is not paint darks in there. I need to paint lights. So I'm going to get some lavender, pretty much tube strength, and suggest a little bit of light on the heads and shoulders. Some of these figures, there's maybe even some architectural detail there. Who knows? And that's where I should probably leave it. So the idea here, and I kind of think I got it going. Again, I want to try to get this a little more working for me. The idea is to, do you see how the color separates up here by itself? And that's the effect of keeping the surface very wet so that the pigment can swim. And then Brownian motion will keep the pigment particles separate as they settle to the paper, and then it dries like that. So you see a little bit of the blue, a little bit of the ochre, a little bit of the red iron oxide. And nice, carefully done, it can be quite beautiful, especially when you start mixing warm and cool colors. So, yeah, I think I want to try to do more of this sort of thing. And of course, it suits when you were working on silhouette type subjects. So the consistency of the paint, you are mixing very dark colors, granted, but if you keep the surface wet and then the dense paint swimming in that, it'll give you some of that nice effect. And only watercolor does that. That doesn't happen in oil. Oh, thank you, Kate. Yeah, those lanterns they're just gorgeous little things. They're all over the place, and all of them tend to be a wee bit different, if I remember rightly. Combination of metalwork and blown glass, and gosh, it's a treat. So that's where I'm going to leave it. It's a great subject, or a great treatment for subjects which I didn't show you some of the other shots of the same place. When you have a silhouette, strong silhouette, it's just remember that if this area is dry, even if it's white paper, if you paint this shape in here big and wet and drizzle your paint around, it'll move and stay within the boundaries of where you've made a mark there, unless you get, too crazy with it and lean it too far. I love this one here where the reflection of the campanile, it's the blue and orange and the guy walking across it. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you, Mary Helen. Wishing everybody a very safe, happy New Year, and we'll all just keep painting, I hope. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you're off to a great start, or at least recovering from a hangover. So tune in next week, and maybe I'll have the nocturne thing on black paper going. We'll see. So stay safe, stay sane. Peace out.